What's up everyone, we're going to be going through the best NBA player props on Prizepicks today. Now I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group, and as you guys see, we actually got 22 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. Now a lot of you comment wanting to see how many I got wrong, and I thought I'd show you in today's video. We actually only got 3 picks wrong and got 22 picks right, which is a 90% win rate. Yes guys, you heard that right, 90% win rate. So we are on a huge hot streak, but if you want to get a 90% win rate and get 22 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon, which will be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $2,025 just yesterday. Another member who won $200 for the 6th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description, so go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group, and I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. Also want to give a quick shout out to Snake Person 2482 who said good stuff, and also shouts out to Pezzy Montana 2697 who said let's make this week great, drop the locks, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So shouts out to them, and if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below and like this video, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. All right, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're talking about is none other than DeLon Wright, and this one is for 8.5 points, and this one actually is for less. Now we look at DeLon Wright, we've actually seen him go on the under in 4 out of the last 5 games. Now looking at those last 5 games, we do see that, you know, on March 20th against San Antonio Spurs, he had 0 points. Then Dallas Mavericks on March 26th had 0 points as well. Then March 27th against LA Clippers had 0 points. Then had 12 points against Milwaukee on the March 29th. And then March 31st against Portland, he had 7 points. So we have seen him go on the under, like I mentioned, in 4 out of the last 5. And on top of that, his average over the last 5 is also 3.8. Now, when it comes to DeLon Wright, he does play for the New York Knicks, and they do face off against none other than the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, it is going to be a very exciting game, but when we look at both of these teams, we do see a big difference between these two, because both are obviously from the Eastern Conference. But starting off with New York Knicks, we do see that the New York Knicks do rank 3rd in the Eastern Conference with a record of 47-27. So very good record there. They have a 63% win percentage, so they've been doing great so far this season, and they have actually clinched a playoff spot, which is honestly fantastic for them. So for that reason, we definitely see someone or a team like Knicks definitely, you know, playing a bit easier, but we still expect a pretty decent game out of the Knicks. Now, when we look at the 76ers, we do see a little bit of a different story. Now, 76ers are on the other side of the poll because they currently rank 13th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 23-25. So very different record. And as you all know, when we look at, you know, the Philadelphia 76ers, not only do they have a 23-52 record, but on top of that, they also have a win percentage of 30%. So when we look at that, we do or are expecting 76ers to continue to try to tank coming into this game. Obviously, they are pretty much out of the play-ins, they're out of the playoffs, so they probably will try to lose on purpose in order to set themselves up for a higher draft pick, which should lead to a better result for them. So we definitely see that affecting, you know, DeLon Wright and the Philadelphia game greatly. Now, when we look at Philadelphia 76ers, however, when it comes to points allowed, we do see an interesting story because the Philadelphia 76ers do rank 20th when it comes to points allowed. However, Philadelphia 76ers actually do a fantastic job at restricting points to the guard position, and we definitely see that affecting DeLon Wright, no doubt about it. Now, a big reason, however, we do like the under for this situation here are for 2 main reasons. The first is that DeLon Wright doesn't really have that high of a usage rate as we have seen. He's had 0 points in 3 out of the last 5 games, which is interesting to see, and on top of that, he's only gone on the over once against Milwaukee Bucks. locks. We think this outlier game where he did have 12 points has brought this line a little bit too high, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under. So we think this has brought this a little bit too high for our liking, a lot more advantage now to go on the under, especially due to the fact that DeLon Wright doesn't really have that high of a usage rate, and we definitely haven't seen him, do that, recently in a sense. So, we are expecting DeLon Wright to go on the under due to that, but when we also look at New York Knicks and Philadelphia 76ers, both are really, really slow-paced teams. And since they are both slow-paced teams, we are expecting the under due to the fact that when we look at both of these teams, we should see less volume, less pace, and because of that, less usage rate for DeLon Wright. So we do like the under for that situation here when it comes to DeLon. Now, when we look at Wright against 76ers so far this season, we actually see that they did face off against each other on the 23rd last year. And that was an interesting game because he played 13 minutes and only had 2 points in that matchup. So we are expecting a similar result in this next one, no doubt about it. We definitely see someone like DeLon Wright going on the under once again, like he did in their last matchup. So this one's just kind of a no-brainer to us. We are sticking to the under for this one. So DeLon Wright, 8.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about another great player, and that is Stephon Castle. So as you all know, Stephon Castle, great player for the San Antonio Spurs, and this one is a fantastic pick for 20.5 points. However, this one actually is for less. Now we look at Stephon Castle. We've actually seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now I do face off against the Orlando Magic coming into this next matchup, but looking at his last 5 games, we see that on March 24th, they faced off against Toronto Raptors, where he had 15 points, then had 19 points against Detroit Pistons on March 26th, then faced off against Cleveland on March 28th, where he had 22 points there, then 22 points against Boston Celtics on March 30th, and then March 31st against the Golden State Warriors had 9 points there. So when it comes to someone like Stephon Castle, we actually do see him going on the under due to the fact, first reason is due to the fact that he has gone on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. So that's definitely a big sign for us there. But also looking further, what we also have seen, with this is that due to the fact that when we look at Stephon Castle, we also do see that the Orlando Magic matchup may be, something restricting him from getting on the points or getting on the points board. Now, when we look at both of these teams, we do see an interesting story because starting off with the San Antonio Spurs, we all know the San Antonio Spurs did lose Victor Wembanyama recently to an injury, or not really that recently, but near the end of the second half of the season. And the Spurs currently rank 13th in the Western Conference with a record of 31-43. So it's definitely been, interesting for the Spurs. They are currently now in a position to pretty much skip the play-ins or skip trying to make the play-ins or playoffs and probably look to tank in order to get them a high draft pick coming into the next draft. So it's definitely probably going to be, the look or where this Spurs team are looking to head coming into this matchup. And then now they do have themselves a very interesting matchup against Orlando Magic, where Orlando Magic on the other side of things look a bit different. Now, Orlando do have a record of 36-40. So they have a little bit of a better record, or pretty much a bigger, better record there. But when we look at that, we also do see Orlando currently ranked 8th in the Eastern Conference, record of 36-40 with a 47% win percentage. But right now they are currently in the play-in position. Now they are in the higher play-in position, which I think is super important to really entail as well, due to the fact that since they are in that higher tier, they are in a little bit of a better position play-in wise. But Magic can definitely lose that higher tier play-in spot of the 7th and 8th position, so they definitely will try to play their hearts out coming into this game and try to secure the win. So we aren't expecting Orlando to take it lightly, but Spurs on the other hand, we definitely could see them, pretty much tank and lose on purpose in order to set themselves up for a higher draft pick coming into the next draft. Now, looking at Stephon Castle and Orlando Magic matchup, we do see that Orlando Magic do rank first when it comes to points allowed. And this one's just a no-brainer to us. The fact that Orlando do a fantastic job at restricting points to not just the team itself, but also do a great job at restricting points to the guard position, we definitely see that having a huge effect on Stephon Castle. Now, Orlando just have done a great job all season season restricting points, but a big way that they have done this is by slowing faster paced teams down. Now, Spurs are a faster paced team than Orlando, but what we have seen time and time again is that, Orlando do a fantastic job at slowing down this team and slowing down guards specifically. And the reason for that, when I mean by slowing down, not just strictly pace, but I mean just slowing them down on the offensive side of things. And I think that's really important to make the differential between those two. We could see somewhat of a similar, maybe a little bit an interesting sort of pace, but when it comes to the offense, Orlando have shown time and time again, which is a big reason why they are first in points, that they are able to really restrict offenses, especially to guards. So we should see that happen coming into this game. Now, looking at Stephon Castle, we also do see that the time that he did face off against Magic, he did have 15 points in that matchup, and this was on the 8th of February. So somewhat recent in that sense. Now, when we look at also the line and also the matchup that he did play 29 minutes in that game. So he did have a lot of minutes, still only scored 15 points. And like I mentioned, when you look at his field goal percentage, he did shoot 41%, only had 12 field goal attempts at total, and not many 3-point attempts, only one. So, they definitely know how to restrict offenses from guards, and they did that in that last game, or the last matchup against each other. And we should see a similar situation there, where Stephon Castle does end up below 20 points. So for that reason, we are definitely sticking to the under for this one. When you look at what the bookies are saying, bookies also have him favored for the under as well, and his average over the last 5 is also 17.4. So all signs point towards the under for this one. So for that reason, Stephon Castle, 20.5 points for less, I think is a great pick. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So as you all know, KCP, as they like to call him, Kentavious has been playing great for Orlando Magic, so this is the same matchup, and this one is for 8.5 points, and this one actually is for less. Now, when we look at KCP, we've actually seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those last 5 games, we see on March 25th, they faced off against the LA Lakers, where he had 9 points. Then had 3 points against the Charlotte Hornets on March 26th. Then on March 28th, faced off against Dallas and had 0 points there. Then had 8 points against Sacramento Kings on March 30th. And then April 1 against the LA Clippers, had 11 points there. So he's done a fantastic job, throughout the whole season. However, when it comes to the points department, we definitely have seen KCP not really be too much of a threat for this Orlando team. And we should see a similar situation coming into this next matchup against the Spurs. Now, we did briefly just touch on the Spurs when it comes to their rankings. So we all know Spurs rank really, really low. They do rank 13th, like we mentioned. And then Orlando, like we mentioned before, do rank 8th. Now, coming into this matchup, looking at the Spurs, we do see that San Antonio Spurs do surprisingly rank 23rd when it comes to points allowed. But they also do a fantastic job at restricting points to the guard position. A big reason for this is that Spurs do have very, very good defensive guards. And especially since adding someone like De'Aaron Fox, we've actually seen their defense heavily improve in the guard department. So when we look on a per position basis, although Spurs as a team don't really do well at restricting points, on a guard to guard basis, we definitely see KCP going on the under. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for the situation here, due to the fact that KCP should go on the under. Now, when we look at his matchup of KCP against Spurs, is also another telltale sign for us here. We do see KCP, has gone on the under in their last matchup, where he had 30 minutes in that game. And this was on the 8th, like we mentioned, with the last pick, but this is on the 8th as well. He only had 3 points in 30 minutes, so they definitely restricted him quite a lot. And KCP isn't really too much of a scorer as well. So we definitely see that having a huge effect there. So with all those things being said, we are sticking to the under for this one. So KCP, 8.5 points for less, I think is a great pick. So as you all know, I do want to get these picks out to you as soon as possible, but Prizepicks is delayed with some of their lines. So here are a couple of players you should definitely watch out for when their lines drop. So the first player we're going to be talking about is none other than Franz Wagner. So as we all know, Franz Wagner, great player for the Orlando Magic, and he's done a fantastic job so far this season because he's been averaging 24.2 points, which actually ranks him 13th, 5.7 rebounds, ranking him 63rd, 4.7 assists, ranking him 42nd, 2nd, and 46.2% from the field, ranking him 71st. So he has done a fantastic job for the Orlando Magic, and when it comes to the Orlando Magic, they do have themselves a very, very good matchup against the San Antonio Spurs. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game between both of these teams, but looking more in depth between both of these teams, I did want to start off with Orlando when it comes to their standings. Orlando in the Eastern Conference currently rank 8th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 36-40. So they have done a great job so far this season, especially since last season they didn't do so well. So they have improved drastically so far. Now, they currently are in a play-in situation. However, they aren't really too far off from, making that 6th spot. They are 4 games behind, so anything can still really happen. Now, it is getting very, very close to the end of the season, but we are still expecting Orlando Magic to come out in this game and actually play their heart out. Now, they haven't actually clinched a playoff spot just yet, so like I mentioned, anything can really happen. They need to continue to perform at a very high level, and right now they are in the better half of the play-ins as well, so they don't want to fall down too far, maybe into 10th position where they are in a little bit more of a riskier situation coming that play-ins time. So Orlando is definitely going to come out firing. Now, looking at the Spurs on the other side of things, we do see a little bit of a different story. Spurs are in the Western Conference, and they do actually rank 13th in the Western Conference with a record of 31-43. So definitely a very, very different record there. And when we also look at the Spurs, they are in a position where they are most likely going to tank in order to set themselves up for a great NBA draft or a high draft pick at that. So we aren't really expecting much from Spurs when it comes to this game. And because of that, we definitely see that having a huge effect in this matchup, especially for this, Magic and Spurs matchup. So looking at Spurs, however, when we look at points, rebounds, and assists allowed, we see that they rank 23rd when it comes to points allowed. They also rank 23rd when it comes to assists allowed, and then rebounds allowed, they also rank 28th. So they surprisingly rank very, very low in all 3 categories, and for that reason, we do very much like the over for this situation here. Now, when it comes to someone like Franz Wagner, he does have a really good usage rate in all 3 departments. And on top of that, Spurs also do a very poor job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the small forward position. So we definitely see someone like Franz Wagner being able to take advantage of this. Now, when it comes to the Spurs and this Orlando Magic team, we are expecting a little bit more pace due to the fact that Spurs are a little bit faster in pace than Magic. But what we have seen time and time again is that Spurs do a fantastic job at speeding up slower paced teams. So we definitely see that being the case coming into this matchup. Because of that, I definitely would keep an eye out for Wagner, as he may get a little bit more extra volume than he usually does see due to the increase in pace. Now, looking at his most recent games, or the last 5 games at that, we do see something pretty similar due to the fact that he has remained pretty consistent. He is coming off a game against LA Clippers where he had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and also 6 assists. He had another matchup where he had 26 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists there, and another matchup where he had 32 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. So, he has been able to do a very, very good job at remaining close to this line, even if he does go on the under. But like we always mention, matchups, that's what's most important. And with a matchup like Spurs, we should see an outcome where he's able to go on the over this one. So keep an eye out for Franz Wagner's line. If the line is under his averages, definitely look to go on the over, because I definitely see a lot of great value there. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Dyson Daniels. So Dyson Daniels, as we all know, great player for the Atlanta Hawks, as his nickname is also known as a great barrier thief. He has done a fantastic job for the Hawks, averaging 14.1 points, which actually ranks him 75th, 5.8 rebounds, ranking him 60th, 4.3 assists, ranking him 52nd, and then 48.6% field goal percentage, and actually ranks 42nd. So he has done a fantastic job, when it comes to all 3 departments. Now, when it comes to Atlanta Hawks, they have had a pretty decent season, and now the Atlanta Hawks do face off against none other than the Portland Trail Blazers. So it is definitely going to be an exciting matchup between both of these teams. Now, when we look at someone like Dyson Daniels and specifically Hawks versus Portland Trailblazers. Looking at their standings, now starting off with Hawks, we do see that the Hawks have done a great job, currently ranking 7th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 36 and 38. So they are in a very, very good position. Now they are currently in the play-ins, but they are in the top half of the play-ins, which I think is really important to note. Now, when we also look at the matchup between these teams, what we also do see between, Hawks is that, they haven't actually clinched a playoff spot just yet. Anything can really happen. If they win a couple extra games, we could see them bump up to the 6th spot, or if they lose a couple of games, we could see them drop down, in the lower play-in half. So, when it comes to Atlanta Hawks, we are expecting them to come out blazing in a sense that we are expecting them to play hard. We're not expecting, anything less than that due to the fact that they haven't actually clinched a playoff spot just yet. Now, looking at the other side of the equation, we also see Portland Trailblazers. Now, Portland Trailblazers are in a little bit of an interesting position because Portland do have or are currently ranked 12th in the Western Conference with a record of 32 and 43. So they have done pretty decently, especially for Portland and what they have as players. But when we look at Portland, they are most likely continuing and looking to tank due to the fact that they just want to set themselves up for a greater future. So we could see them tank, in this game and also just try to get this game over with, because the more they lose, the better chance or the higher chance they have at getting a higher draft pick. So that's definitely the plan probably for the Portland Trailblazers coming into this next matchup, while Atlanta Hawks do look a little bit different. Now, looking at Portland Trailblazers, we do see interesting stats because we see that they rank 16th in points allowed, 13th when it comes to assists allowed, and then 16th when it comes to rebounds allowed. So they rank pretty mid-tier in all three categories, but they still do rank mid to low tier, I consider. And for someone like Atlanta Hawks' Dyson Daniels, who is a guard, what we also have noticed is that Portland Trailblazers actually do a very, very poor job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the guard position. So we definitely see that happening. We see someone like Dyson Daniels going on the over in this situation here. Now, when it comes to which one to focus on, I think he has a capability to go over on all three categories. Dyson Daniels has remained to have a very, very high usage rate in all three departments. On top of that, we are also expecting, or there may be some injuries for this Hawks team. Trae Young is a game time decision. He's one of the main ones that you definitely want to keep an eye out for. But if Trae Young still does end up playing, we still see someone like Dyson Daniels going on the over. But if Trae Young isn't, then it definitely just does give a little bit of a boost for Dyson Daniels. So for that reason, we definitely would keep an eye out for this game. Now, Trailblazers and both Hawks are pretty fast-paced teams, so we are expecting a good amount of pace from both of these matchups. And when we look at Dyson Daniels over the last 5 games, we've seen him put on quite a performance, as of recent. He's coming off a matchup against Milwaukee Bucks where he had 22 points, 6 assists, and also 9 rebounds. So he actually went over on all 3 of these lines. Another matchup where he had 19 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds, going over on all 3 lines as well. And another matchup where we had 12 points, 6 assists, and also 11 rebounds, going over in 2 out of the 3 categories. So, his usage rate and his consistency has remained very, very good. And we definitely see that continuing on and following on into this next matchup against the Portland Trailblazers. So keep an eye out for his line. I see a lot of value there to go on the over, especially if the line is under his averages. Now, getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Kyle Kuzma. So, as you all know, Kyle Kuzma, great player from the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's done a fantastic job so far this season because he's been averaging 14.9 points, ranking him 66th, 6.1 rebounds, ranking him 53rd, 2.4 assists, ranking him 108th, and then 42.4% field goal percentage, ranking him 108th as well. So like we mentioned before, when it comes to Kyle Kuzma's Milwaukee Bucks, obviously this is his new team. He most recently did play also for the Wizards, so his averages are a mix of both of those times, or his tangent with the Bucks and also with the Wizards as well. So that's just something to be wary about. But when it comes to the matchup, Milwaukee Bucks do have themselves a very exciting matchup against the Phoenix Suns. Now, looking at both of these teams, we do see something pretty interesting. Now, starting off with Bucks, we see that Bucks do rank 6th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 40 and 34. So they are ranking a little bit on that lower side compared to what people expected from the Bucks. Now, they haven't actually clinched a playoff spot just yet, but they are currently in the playoffs as we speak. Now, anything can really change. Maybe teams from the under can definitely go on a hot win streak, and we could technically see Bucks go on a little bit of a losing streak, which they have been on as of recent. But as of right now, they are currently in a playoff spot, so they are looking to come into this game and try to win in order to solidify a playoff spot and staying out of the play-in. So, they are probably going to push for that very much so. And the Suns have a somewhat similar situation because the Suns currently rank 11th in the Western Conference with a record of 35-40. So very, very different sort of outcome in that matchup due to the fact that when we look at the Suns, they currently rank 11th. They are only one game behind 10th. So they are pushing to win this game to solidify a spot in the play-ins, hopefully. So, when it comes to that Western Conference in that play-in sort of category, we could see Suns, if they go on a little bit of a win streak to finish and maybe the teams above them go on a lose streak, we could see Suns end up in a much better position than 11th spot in the Western Conference. So anything can definitely happen coming into this matchup, but we are expecting both of these teams to play very, very hard. Now, looking at the Phoenix Suns when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists allowed, we do see that the Phoenix Suns do rank 22nd in points. Moving on into assists allowed, we see that they rank 17th, and then they also rank 18th when it comes to rebounds allowed. So they rank very, very, mid to low tier in all three categories, and we definitely see that having a huge effect coming into this game. And Suns actually do a very poor job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the small forward position. So we definitely see someone like Kuzma being able to take advantage of this. Now, when it comes to the matchup between both of these teams, we are expecting a good amount of pace. I think Suns and Bucks, it is definitely going to be not just a fast-paced game, but definitely a lot of volume, which should definitely lead to an over for someone like Kuzma coming into this game. Now, when we look at Kuzma's most recent games, you definitely see he's had a very, very good usage rate. As you all know, Damian Lillard is injured from this Milwaukee Bucks team. He isn't really expected to return, and for that, we definitely see that continuing on, as we should see, Kuzma take a little bit of that usage rate away since Lillard is out. So, and we definitely have seen that, he's coming off a matchup where he had 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 1 assist. So he did a fantastic job there. Another matchup where he had 20 points, 3 assists, 5 rebounds. Another matchup where he had 15 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds there. But like we always mentioned, matchups, and we should see on this occasion, see him go on the over in this one. Now, when it comes to which sort of, categories to focus on, I think points and rebounds, you should see a line come out for Kuzma. I highly doubt there's going to be a line out for assists due to the fact that he is a little bit on the lower side, but still, definitely keep an eye out just for all three lines, because if the line is under his averages, then I definitely still see a lot of value there to go on the over. So keep an eye out for Kuzma in that sense. Now, getting into the next player is Scottie Barnes. So we all know Scottie Barnes. We all know how fantastic he has been for the Toronto Raptors, because he's been averaging 19.3 points, ranking him 37th, 7.8 rebounds, ranking him 26th, 5.9 assists, which ranking him 23rd, and then 44.4% field goal percentage, ranking him 94th. So he's done a great job for the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors do have themselves an interesting matchup against the Chicago Bulls. Now, looking at both these teams, we do see a little bit of a different story, but somewhat similar, because Chicago Bulls are currently in the play-ins and currently ranked 10th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 33-42. So they have a really, really good record in a sense of, they have been able to do well in order to solidify a spot in the play-ins, but it hasn't been solidified just yet because there is still a little bit more of the season yet to go. Now, the Raptors are a little bit behind, however. They are actually 5 games behind the Chicago Bulls, and we don't really see them catching up, especially with the way that things have been going. But anything can really happen. You don't really know. So let's just wait to see how this, end of the season really does pan out. But when it does look like it doesn't really seem like Raptors are tanking or anything of that. They have been on a little bit of a win streak, so we are actually expecting Raptors to try to make a push in order to send themselves into that play-in picture and hopefully, outcase or showcase Bulls. So it is definitely going to be an interesting one, since both teams are currently going to be fighting for that 10th spot. So it should be a very interesting game there. But looking at Chicago Bulls when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists allowed, we see that the Chicago Bulls do rank when it comes to points allowed. They actually rank 28th. Moving on into assists allowed, we see that they rank 28th as well. and then 29th when it comes to rebounds allowed. So when it comes to Scottie Barnes, we actually are expecting him to go on the over in this situation here due to the fact that Bulls just rank very, very low in all three categories. On top of that, when you also look, at the usage rate of Scottie Barnes, it has remained high over the last couple of games. So we should see a similar outcome coming into this matchup, especially against a team like Bulls who do a very poor job defensively. Now, looking at both of the pace of these teams, now Bulls are a little bit faster paced than Raptors, but what we are expecting this game is that Raptors may see a little bit of an increase in their usage rate, and we could see Scottie Barnes actually go, have a little bit more volume in points, rebounds, and assist department due to the fact that, Bulls like to push the pace quite a bit. So we definitely see that having a huge effect coming into this game. Now, when we look at Scottie Barnes over the last couple of games, we've seen him play very, very well. He most recently had a game where he had 18 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, so great job there. Another matchup where he had 22 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. Another matchup where he had 15 points, 5 assists, and 7 rebounds. So he has done a decent job in, all three categories, and also over the last couple of games. They are currently on a 4-game win streak with Scottie Barnes playing, and we should see that continue on as they try to make a last-minute push to try to make the NBA playoffs.